there, Ma Terry here, and boy, do I have a good one for you today. It's called Exposing the Dirty Secrets of Shelters. How do they make money, and how do they make money off the poor people of domestic violence? All right, this is part one. This is what happened to me. I agreed to leave my husband for the safety and sanctuary of a shelter. Now, I had no idea how shelters ran. Tomorrow, you're going to love it, will be the confrontation. Wait until you hear what they did to me. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. But then a couple of years later, when I finally gained my strength back, there was a confrontation. Oh my gosh, to end all confrontations. So please stay tuned tomorrow. All right, you'll really want to see this. All right, so I'm going to use a domestic violence shelter for women. I do understand that men get domestic violence, but it's not my experience, and I'm only talking about my experience. So, okay. All right. Now, statistically, domestic violence victims return on an average of 7 times to their abuser. I know, that's a really high, it really is. But, a lot of them blame the person of domestic violence, but maybe part of it is the 3-card Monty that I know as how these domestic violence shelters run. And we're going to get into that. Let me read something from Wikipedia. Okay. Now, statistically, domestic violence victims return to their abuser 7 times before they are able to escape for good. A lot of this is because there is an imbalance of power that limits a victim's financial options. Usually, the abuser is in charge of all the money. I have no idea how that happens, but my husband had everything, and I had nothing. He had all the bank accounts. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. Shelters are supposed to help women gain tangible resources to help them create a new life. They did not help me on this because they were playing 3-card Monty. But my shelter didn't do that for me. Not that I didn't do anything wrong. I was a good person. I'm always quiet. I get along with everybody. All right. But yeah, they play 3-card Monty, but the stakes are the abuse victims of domestic violence. So I'm glad I have a platform so I can explain this to you. And maybe when you see how they market their shelters and what I'm saying, it'll ring true to you. All right. So I had no money coming in. In fact, I left my husband with debt. Okay. So, wait a minute. Okay, let's say you have no financial resources, and this is what a domestic violence shelter is supposed to help you with, whether it's getting a job or for someone like me getting a Social Security disability. My brain was pretty scrambled. I went into the domestic violence shelter right after my husband strangled me, so you can imagine how messed up I was. One of my roommates, her husband stabbed her a few times, and after a brief hospital stay, she was in the domestic violence shelter. All right, so let's say you have no financial resources. What options do you have? All right, you can be homeless and live on the streets, and that wasn't good for the woman that got stabbed. She had 2 kids, but that's what she wound up doing, going back on the streets with her kids. To go back to their abuser, I didn't choose to go back to my abuser. Remember, most victims go back 7 times, and a lot of it has to do with finances. I chose to take my own life, but that's a different story. I know I've told this story before. I'll put it on an upcoming video because this woman that ran the domestic violence shelter thinks everything turned out well. Well, it didn't. Her foolishness almost cost me my life. I was seconds away from death. We'll talk about that later. So what did this shelter do that would put my life in such jeopardy? All right, let me explain how their 3-card Monty works. And remember, I have a traumatic brain injury, so that's why I'm reading. All right, so they do everything they can before you leave your husband to get you to trust them. They tell you, okay, well, we have this beautiful shelter for you, and we'll help you get back on your feet. And, we'll also provide on-site counseling. And they did, but getting me back on my feet financially, they never did because they had another plan in motion. All right, they tell you all these wonderful things to gain your trust so that you actually will leave your abuser. Not like that's a bad thing, but if you're going to go back 7 times, it is a bad thing. I've never seen someone go back to their abuser and their abuser be loving. No, usually the grip gets even tighter and tighter. That's why, I mean, once you get strangled, that's why I chose death over going back to him. All right, so here's how they make money. In their brochures, they advertise to all their donor. I didn't do the numbers right. That this year they helped over 10,000 women escape domestic violence. Yay! They helped over 10,000 women. Isn't that great? But they don't tell you that the minute that they help them escape and they're in the shelter, they're on the phone finding another shelter to put them in. And sometimes they can't place them, but we'll get to that in a second. So, okay, wait, give me a sec. So, let's say it takes 6 months. Well, number one, we know in order to get into Section 8 housing, like this woman with the 2 kids, that's what she needed, Section 8 housing. In Southern California, it can take over 2 years. It took me about 6 months to get an EBT card, and let me see if I can barely explain that to you. It's a government program to where they give you like a card, and it's about $400, and you can use it for groceries and gasoline, and that's about it. Okay, so, and that takes 6 months. So if you're only getting 30 days at a domestic violence shelter, where are you going to go for money? I don't know. Okay, but they helped 10,000 women escape. All right, so let's say the shelter has 50 beds, and it takes 6 months to get these women back up on their feet. So every 6 months, there's 50 women, and then next 6 months, there's 50 women. So they can say they helped 100 women escape domestic violence. But let's say they multiply that 50 women by 12. I'll be right back. I'm going to give you 50 women by 12, 600. Okay, so doesn't it look better that they helped 600 women? So how do they get these people out of the shelter? Well, let me tell you what they did for me. Okay, so like I said, the minute you get in the shelter, they're on the phone. They're finding you a new shelter to go to. And, so they did find me a good shelter, but they knew it was a bad fit. They tried a few other shelters, but it would be too far away for me to go through my divorce. That's the other thing. They help you with the paperwork for the divorce. And if they put you in Alaska, how are you going to be at the courthouse to go through your divorce? So it had to be someplace reasonable to where I could drive. So they found me this lovely little place, and they told me, oh my gosh, it's sort of like a vacation. You're going to love it. You're going to have your own room. Now, having your, I don't mind sharing a room with anybody, but at the time, let's go back. My husband just strangled me, and I was a nut job. I was neurotic. And, and with my insomnia and my claustrophobia, the shelter knew I had all these problems, just didn't care about it. So congratulations. We found you a wonderful shelter. And I'm in Southern California. I'm at the beach. This is who I am. We wear sometimes we wear shorts in the winter. Today it's long pants, but it was up in Big Bear Lake. So okay, it sounds wonderful. Nice little town. They told me, they have a bowling alley. They have this. They have that. It's a big house that you'll be living in. It'll be for 6 months, and that part was definitely true. All right, so I drive up there, and I get to my room, and I swear to God, the room was half the size that Mr. Louis got me. I mean, this is like a 10 by 10. This is nice. There's a bunk bed against this wall and a bunk bed against that wall. 4 women were going to live in a closet, and one of those women were going to be me. And I don't think so. Immediately, I got on the phone with the shelter that put me there, saying, take me back. Oh, we can't take you back. And I was on the phone with my attorneys. Then I find out that, remember, I'm claustrophobic. You were only allowed to leave the shelter twice a day for no more than 10 minutes a day. Also, I have no winter clothes. Well, not winter Big Bear clothes, like snowstorm clothes. And it's like they would tell me, go take out the garbage. There's black ice everywhere. I can't walk there. I don't have shoes with cleats. It doesn't matter. So I only stayed at that shelter for 2 weeks. Okay, so, wait a minute. Yeah, that house became like a prison. And this is why I get so upset. Why should I be the one in a prison? Well, we're trying to hide you from the guy that did terrible things to you. Um, yeah, so it was a horrible place. The shelter that found me the place knew it was a bad match for me. And that's when I started spiraling out of control. Wait until I tell you about how I fared at other shelters. But tomorrow, like I said, once I get back on my feet financially and emotionally, there is a confrontation. I go to her little shelter and I tell her exactly what she did wrong. Tune in tomorrow. You're going to love it. All right. I hope this helps someone. And I hope I explained it clearly. By throwing people out every 30 days instead of giving them the 6 months that they need, they get to boast that they've helped more women. But if help is throwing them out after 30 days and they have a potential to go back to their abusers, I don't think that's a lot of help. Anyhow, let me know what you find interesting in the comments below. All right. See you all down the road. Bye.